Hi everyone, my name is Ginger Dewey and I am with ReadSpeaker, and I'm here with you today to talk to you about Web Reader in Blackboard Ultra. And Blackboard Ultra is a very different beast than Blackboard Original, as I'm certain you have found out. But let's begin. This first one is just a standard lesson. And when I click on it, I'm in instructor view, and you can see up here it says click to edit content. I'm not going to click that because when you do, your listen button goes away because you're in an edit mode. Now, if I click listen,
knowing where to find learner support is essential to your success.
Now, notice that you have paragraph highlighting in Ultra. It is not word by word highlighting, it's paragraph highlighting. Now I'm going to show you something different. If I highlight a sentence and click listen,
each person has different learning preferences. You may prefer to listen to information, or to read information, or to interact with information. Dead.
Now, notice on that, it did not highlight what I highlighted, it just read it. The only way to get the highlighting is to click listen from the very beginning. The next thing I want to talk to you about is settings. So let's look at settings. And in settings, you can choose what color you want for your paragraph. If you're colorblind, choose the underline. Your reading speed can be adjusted with your up and down arrows. I tend to like 105, so that's where I'm going to put it. Next, I'm going to look at my page mask. For my page mask, I can pick a color for the focus area, which right now is white, and for the mask itself, which is right now gray. I'm going to pick pink for my focus area, and I'm going to reduce the transparency some so we can see the pink. And I think I'll have light blue for my mask, and I can pull that mask on down to where it's totally blocked out or slightly blocked out. I like to be able to see there's a little bit of word there so I know when I'm getting to the end. Another thing we can do is set our own keyboard shortcuts. And with that, you first click on the X and then click on the rectangle. Now, a lot of shortcuts are either one control key and a letter or two control keys and a letter. We want to make certain you don't override any shortcuts that you have. So we always suggest 3, and I use Control, Option, Command on my PC, and I believe it's Control, Function, Alt on, Control, Function, Alt on the PC and Control, Option, Command on my Mac. So I'm going to press those 3 keys and the number 1, because the very first thing you have to do if you're using keyboard commands is put the focus on the player. Then you can move around to whichever one you want. The next one I would probably change is the play, and I'm going to use my L with the same 3 keys. So you can go in there and change up what you want for each one. You don't have to do all of them, just the ones that you find you typically use. The last setting we have is your font size, which goes from a -1 to a +7, and +7 is very big. I'm going to put it on +2. The next thing is your font. We have Times New Roman, Arial, Comic Sans, Career New, and Open Dyslexic. Just because a student might be dyslexic does not mean they need to use the Open Dyslexic font. What it means is that they should use, and everyone is true of this, the font they learn to read with or are most comfortable with. For me, I learned with Dick and Jane, which was Arial, so that's my favorite. But let's say you learned with a different primer that was in Times New Roman. You just select the font you want. Now we have various color backgrounds, and we have black ink or font on light yellow, white, light blue, and pink, red on those colors, blue on those colors, yellow on black. But the most popular for today's generation is light blue on black. And that's because that's how most dark modes are shown. Now, watch the space between the letters as I move my text spacing to the right. Notice there's more space between the characters. That is so you can decode. And decoding does not have to be a permanent disability. It can be a temporary disability, such as you have allergies and your eyes are teary, or you need to get new glasses. Something like that. You might want to use the decoding for a day or two and then turn it back off. And when I say decoding, I'm talking about text spacing. I'm going to put mine as black on pink. Now, this brings up the next thing. If a student has headaches, a lot of headaches, you can use that pink, light blue, light yellow with black font for the background. Now, your settings are held in the cookies and cache of your device's browser. Change devices, change browsers, you've got to change it again. The other thing you can do is when you're in text mode, you can expand or contract this to the width of your eyes. That means that you're reading straight down and you have less of what I call the squirrel moment, to where your eyes shoot off the page and you're off in Never Never Land. You know, that happens with a lot of students these days. So keeping it the width of your eyes lets you read straight down. Let's talk about reading voice. With reading voice, first off, this is an international demo site, so everybody's voices are in here. I am going to choose, right now I'm on Madison. So let's listen to some Madison. And remember, it's not going to highlight because I chose what I wanted.
Knowing where to find learner support is essential to your success.
And that is our brand new voice. It just came out last week or maybe the week before, and that voice is known as Madison. But what I wanted to show you is over here, when I expand out that menu, I can see it tells me the language, where the language is from, and the voice name, because that's US English. But up here we see Bridget is UK English. And someone asked me earlier today in a presentation why you had to have different voices. Well, first off, someone might have a hearing deficit where it sounds like Charlie Brown's mom. And if it sounds like Charlie Brown's mom, then they still technically can hear it, but they can't disseminate the words. Well, you want to change to a voice where you can. I have a slight hearing deficit and I have lost 5 tones. They're in the lower register. And I can tell you the voice mark hits 3 of those tones. So if I only had the choice of mark as a voice, I'd only be hearing 40% of what was being said. So a student might change voices so they can hear better. Another reason is some students just need a break. And by needing a break, you change your voice. Or you use one voice for one course, a different voice for another course. Let's look at text mode. Oops. Let's try that again. I'll highlight a little bit and then I'll put it in text mode. And we can see we have it right here. Now let's say I want to change something. I can go in there and put this on light yellow. Ooh, I did red on light yellow. That's not what I wanted. I want black on light yellow. That's better. So I can go in and make those changes to the text mode right there. I can play the entire part that I have up here, or I can highlight a sentence and I have my Listen Dictionary Translate that pop up. The next function that we have is a page mask. Now remember, we set some things a little while ago to have a pink focus area and a light blue mask. I can make this larger or smaller, and I can move it up and down on my screen. Now, one thing, I'm on a 27-inch monitor right now, and if I get all the way over to one edge and go back, it's a very good chance I'm going to be on the wrong line. So I use the bottom edge a lot of times as to tell me which line, like I would a ruler or a note card on a paper textbook. You do have download to MP3, and download to MP3, it's going to say you're going to use it only for your use, or you're not going to sell it and you can't give it away. If you sell it or give it away to someone else, then you are violating your student code of conduct. And when you download it, it's going to come up with your standard download screen. And you probably won't see that. Nope, you don't see that in the share, but it gives you a whole bunch of letters and numbers. Now, I am certain you are going to remember all those letters and numbers. This one starts off with 05F8 CBB, blah, 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 blah. That's not going to happen. We always suggest that you rename your file the name of the file that you have. So this MP3, I would rename learner. I would put an underscore and the word support. That way it would stay in order for me. All right, the last two items that we have that we use in regular lessons is a dictionary. And I'm going to highlight the word research, and I'm going to choose dictionary. And this top part just says, hey, we're using an online dictionary, and it is as is. We typically use an Oxford dictionary and the product Wiktionary, which is like Wikipedia. Now, this is kind of small looking, so I'm going to pump it up some so we can see it a little bit better. And notice it has research as a noun. It is also a verb. It gives me the definitions for each and examples for each. I can listen to that if I want to. All right, now, Kayla.
Yes.
Will you open your mic and tell me what language would you like for me to translate, have a research paper into?
Let's do Spanish.
All right, when I click on translate, I don't see Spanish. And yes, you can scroll, but I'm kind of lazy. So I type an S, still don't see it, P, and there it is. You could type any letter in Spanish and it would start sorting the languages to any one that has that letter. And I stayed off of it too late. And that gets me to my second point, which says it stays as the search until you change it. Okay, let's make this smaller so we can actually see what it says. And here, this just says that we are using Google Translate. And with Google Translate, it is good for a word or a phrase. When you go beyond that, it is not accurate structurally wise. So your sentence structure is incorrect. Now, I'm going to click play.
Tengo un trabajo de investigación.
Did you guys hear that? Okay, no reaction means you did, right?
No, we were nodding our heads. Nice.
Oh, okay.
It.
All right. Now, right here is a download button. And you might say, well, why do I only want to download a phrase? Well, you could have to practice saying it over and over and over again. But what it could really be used for is if a student, say, has Spanish as a native language, that's the one they learned first. And then they learned English. or are learning English. If we translated this much, notice it's still on Spanish, into Spanish, it would give the student a gist of what's there. It's not going to be accurate. It's what we call broken English, but this would be broken Spanish. In other words, words might not be conjugated correctly. Modifiers might be in the wrong place. In fact, they will be, because in Spanish and in French, you say peas green instead of green peas. So you're going to have those things to deal with. But if someone really was okay with that, they could download this and listen to it offline. So that's the purpose of it being there. All right, let's go back. And by the way, you will see this in your lessons. You will see it in your assignments. You will see it in your discussions. If I go to a discussion, I probably need to do student view. Yep, let me go back. Oh, nope, there it is. So we can see it. All right. Now, let's talk about a quiz. Notice I have a quiz right here, and I'm going to go into student preview and for this part, and I'm going to very quickly show you a quiz in Blackboard Ultra. When my student preview gets up, it's being slow. This is where you hum the Jeopardy tune in your head, just so you know, you get the idea. It takes it a moment for student preview to click over. I'm getting click happy. I apologize. Now, notice in the title of this quiz, I said I needed form reader. And make my screen a little bit wider here so you can see all this. You can see that I have a start attempt. So I'm going to click start. And here comes my questions. And if I'm lucky, my answers will come up, but it's probably a new attempt. But I'm going to go in, and the first thing I'm going to do is turn on form reading. And I have a reason for that. I'm going to click and listen to the question. I don't want to hear question 1 point. If I click the big listen, it's just going to read that much. And the what is 9 plus 5, it won't go down to question 2. It's just going to be that one part.
What is 9 plus 5?
Okay, last I checked, that was 14. So I'm going to type
Enter.
in 14. Come on.
You wrote 14.
Okay, if there's a big delay in there, but it does tell you that you wrote 14. It will read anything that you put in these blanks. It will read your short essay. And I'm just going to highlight that much. We'll go ahead and
This is my
activate it. Maybe
answer.
I have. Okay. It just needed me to hit the listen for it to start. Now, with this, what you have to do is make a selection. Once you have made a
Disabled.
selection,
Question 5. 1. Colombia. Columbia. South Carolina. Option 01, selected. Question 5.
Uh,
2. Raleigh.
Okay, I got down on the Raleigh, but you can see that it told you it was the first item in the drop down
Disabled.
that you select.
Question 5.
That you
1. Columbia. Disabled. Question 5. 1. Columbia.
all right. Now that it's quit reading to me, I could have chosen Georgia, and it would have said 02 Georgia, because it's going to tell you which one, and it uses a 2-digit number. These are straightforward right here. This is just where you wanted to type in some more, but you can see it's reading all the kinds of questions that you typically use, and it's because you toggled on Form Reader. If you had not toggled that on, it would have only read what is 9 plus 5. It would not have read that it is 14. All right, what questions do you have? Any questions?
So is this app in the Office suite, or how do we access it?
This is part of Blackboard Ultra. It's the
Blackboard Ultra,
ReadSpeaker product that is inside Blackboard Ultra. And anytime you see the listen button, that's us, the
Okay.
ReadSpeaker. You're not going to see it outside of Ultra unless you have it on your website or something like that. You may look in a textbook somewhere because we are integrated in many textbooks, and you might see a microphone or a speaker. When you click on it, it starts reading the page in the textbook. That's most likely us, because we are in a huge amount of textbooks, especially McGraw-Hill and Cengage.
So with Sage, I have online textbooks in Blackboard.
Mm-hmm.
So would this ReadSpeaker be available for my students to access them within the textbook, online textbook?
Depending on how you brought that textbook in, yes. And on March 20th, when we have our second part, we're going to talk about Doc Reader, and that's what would be reading your textbook.
Okay.
What type file is your textbook? PDF, Word, EPUB?
I have no idea. I think it's PDF.
Okay.
You can't alter it. Yeah.
All right. With the PDF, there should not be a problem with it reading it, but if there is, then we'll work with you to try to get that problem resolved. Okay?
Okay.
Other questions?
Is ReadSpeaker compatible for all web browsers? The second part to the question is it more efficient to use one web browser versus another when using ReadSpeaker?
First off, it is available. Your Blackboard Ultra is going to work in any environment. Safari sometimes has its moments, and that's just indicative of Safari, that I try to stay away from it. I like to use Chrome because it will work on PCs and Macs, but that's just me. Technically, it works on all the major browsers.
Thank you.
Next question. You're bound to have something else.
I wasn't here at the beginning. I think you had started about 5 minutes early. Would you mind going back and showing how initially I can get into ReadSpeaker?
Okay. When you first go in your Ultra course, I'm on my course content. I click on my file, and ReadSpeaker automatically comes up.
Okay.
You don't have to do anything special to make it come up.
I've seen it. Yeah. Okay.
And when you expand out, and I'm going to expand out and just pause it. Notice that you have backward and forward. So
Mhm.
if you wanted to go back and re-listen to something because it, you said, did it say that? One of those things, or wait a minute, I didn't quite get that. You can click the back arrow to move back to where you wanted to start re-listening, or you are studying and you want to progress real quick to another area and you don't want to highlight. You can just keep clicking the move forward and it will move on down the page for you. The volume, we deliver maxed out, so you can adjust your volume wherever you are accustomed to adjusting your volume. You don't have to adjust it in ReadSpeaker. If you're accustomed to doing it on your earbuds, on your computer, on your phone, wherever you are, then it's going to be an easier adjustment to do it there because that's where you go naturally. So that's why volume is always delivered as maxed out. Other questions?
What's the next icon after speaker?
That is our reading speed,
Okay.
and you can move it up, down. I am not real good at hitting you notice I'm jumping from 100 to 115.
Gotcha. Mhm.
That's a little bit fast for me. If I
Knowing
go
where to
in settings,
Mhm.
I can adjust there using my arrow keys, and I can move it easier that way using the up and down arrow. I'm just not as talented on a mouse as some people are, so I use my arrow keys. But you do have to be in a text block like this, or text mode, or dictionary, or translate, anything that's putting this type block right here up on the screen. You'll have your speedometer, and you can adjust with your arrow keys there. Other questions? Well, I thank you for coming today, and I will see you on March 20th. And I hope you have a lovely day. And on March 20th, coming attraction, we're going to talk about Doc Reader, which would be how you would put in your textbook or a document you wanted your student to read, anything along those lines. We'll be talking about that. And there is a special way you have to put them in, unfortunately. So I will be walking you through how to do that.